Sometimes when I sit back and really let it register, I did everything I said I would and said it first. I mean, the world's in denial, but they all know what I'm headed for. We about to feed these youngins to the metaverse. Meanwhile, I'm over here just trying to pen a verse, cause I'm done being extra with the extroverts. The label used to wonder how I'm supposed to stand next to Vert. Probably never thought that I would get these legs to work. I work hard, but hard don't need no extra work. That's why I show up in a sweatshirt and let it burn. The world's mine, I just say f it, let it turn. The girl's mine, I just say f it, have it turn. The goats call me to the side like, can we have a word? I could've fronted, but I did it how I preferred. I know I should be humble, but it's something I just haven't learned. Soon enough, I'll have to make these bad habits burn. Soon enough, we about to come and get the shit we earn. You're not a fan now, but I remember when you used to be fanned out. I guess when the whole world loves you, people only got one way to stand out. All that time in the kitchen finally panned out. I put some flavor in the pot and took the bland out. I know my grandpa would have a heart attack if I pulled 100 grand out. So I'm not gonna pull 100 grand out. I'm hip hop, do you fully understand? Fully automatic with the jams and it don't jam. At the shows I'm about to start handing out programs, cause y'all need to get with the program. I'm a grown man, call me pops, around and take your phone, man. Everybody know Jack, but they don't know Jack, man. They just know I got the flows and the packed out shows. Ain't too many cons when you playing with the pros, except for how your life get exposed. But I make that sacrifice for the life that I chose. I know in Toronto they got salt for the roads, but school's closed in Kentucky, so I liked when it snowed. The kids carry chopsticks, not for rice in a bowl. School counselors all know how they life is at home. Cold like the Minnesota Vikings at home. Before I met Drizzy, I knew he and I would get along. But it's hard to crack jokes when you really want advice. I mean, what's it like to touch gold every time you touch a mic? Touching heights, no one gets a touch in life. Right, young bachelor, what's a wife? Once in a lifetime, till I say I want it twice. One of a kind, know your everything is one of mine. Wanted posters with my face, they know who I'm wanted by.
What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. It's Friday night, so that is another Q&A for you guys here, answering your start sits, your trades, your waivers, anything you guys got for me, fantasy football related or not fantasy football related. I think the other night we were talking about cheesecake and some other stuff like that. So if you guys got any other questions for me, go ahead and throw them in the chat. That's what we're here for today. Got a Friday night game on tap tonight. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. That is the Sao Paulo, Brazil game. So we do have that on store for the schedule here this evening. We are going to be going up all the way until that point in time. That is going to be about 8 p.m. So we got about an hour here where we're going to be talking some fantasy football. Appreciate everybody who has gotten into the chat early, throwing some questions into the chat early. Jake, I see you. Six Ring, see you. Deathly, I see you. Appreciate everybody being here early and getting those questions in. So as you can see, this is your time. Drop them in. If you want to skip the line, you decide that, your question is more important than everybody else's and you want me to answer it right here, right now, you can do so by a super chat. You don't have to. If you don't do that, you just got to wait your turn. But if you want to skip the line, that is an option for you guys. But let's get right into it with Jake. First question in the chat. So he was the first one here. He says Tech going for 100 yards week 1. And I hope so, man. I got him on a couple DraftKings lineups this week. Playing him in the Millie Maker one that they have and some of the other ones. So hopefully Tet does. I like the matchup for him. Should be a pretty solid day for him overall. Six Rings says, you and War got any side bets for when Minnesota goes belt to ass on the Bears? We don't. We don't actually at this point in time. We do record an episode of Let's Talk Dynasty tomorrow, our Dynasty Trade Review show. So maybe at that point, maybe I can pressure him on stream. Maybe I'll try and pressure him on video for you, Six Rings. Keep an eye out for that video because I might try and throw a little side bet in there. Maybe something like, I don't know. We'll keep it light. But we'll figure it out. Got to get one. Have to. It's not very often you and the co-host get to start off on Monday Night Football, your teams against each other. Deathly says, if Brian Robinson starts, this is a hell of a question already. If Brian Robinson starts, where do you have him in your running back flex rankings? It's insane, man, that we're already here. This is deja vu with Chris McCaffrey. I do think CMC is going to play. However, if he is out and Brian Robinson plays in week 1, I guess I would have to look at B-Rob as like a guy in my tier 4, probably similar to guys like Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Chuba, Breece Hall. That would put him in the running back like 13 to 20 range for me. So he'd probably slide in somewhere like that with Breece Hall, James Cook, Chuba, those guys in my rankings. Dan says, still thinking about the guy who offered me A.J. Brown for Igbuka in 2 seconds last week. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, tough day for A.J. right away. Didn't seem like he was getting involved that often. This team doesn't throw the football that much, man. I mean, if you have Jalen Hurts, you love him. But one of my buddies in our group chat said actually that anybody who has a Philly wide receiver on their fantasy teams hates Jalen Hurts. If you have Jalen Hurts on your fantasy team, you love Jalen Hurts. So that might just be the way it is. I mean, but it depends on your team, I guess, really on how you're looking at it. Igbuka in 2 seconds, if you're playing for the future, it's hard not to take that side. 6 Rings, again, says, only relevant question is, are you subbed and have you liked the video? That's damn straight. I mean, if you're in the chat, you've subbed. So appreciate everybody who's been here. But if you haven't liked the video, go hit that like button. That does help us out, does help push the algorithm to tell, I guess it really tells the algorithm that you guys like the content. Seems straightforward, but then it pushes it and recommends it to other people. So it truly does help this channel. So thank you for reminding the folks in the chat. 6 Rings. Caleb says, do you start Tracy or Dobbins this week? That's a great question. We had this conversation a little bit earlier today when I was on the Dynasty Nerds Start Sit stream. We had a J.K. Dobbins conversation. Both of these guys are in the same tier for me. You got Dobbins versus the Tennessee Titans, and you got Tyrone Tracy at the Washington Commanders. I think just after talking with Garrett and having some more conversations, the thought is that it's probably going to be a game script where the Denver Broncos are ahead. They're probably going to be leading. They're probably going to be running the ball in the second half. And even though it's a good defense, their defensive front in Tennessee is a very solid one at that. I do think J.K. Dobbins is probably the safer play in week 1 over Tracy. But they are back-to-back in my rankings. Dobbins is my running back 28, and Tracy is my running back 29 right now. Andre, my guy, good to see you back in the chat, man. He says, thoughts on this trade, bro? I sent it before week 1. I give up Breece and Pickens for Bucky. I mean, I kind of like the Bucky side here just a little bit. I think Pickens is due for a pretty solid year as well. Obviously didn't come to fruition as far as fantasy points go in week 1, but I kind of like it. I kind of like the Bucky side. However, I'm not opposed to you waiting another week and seeing what Breece's workload looks like. I think that's the only thing that's kind of keeping me paused, is I don't know what his workload is going to look like right away. So I guess I would probably hold it for now. And then if Breece looks like Braylon is getting involved a little bit more than you'd like, probably pull the trigger on the Bucky side. Football producers or productions or whatever that is says, CMC, sit or start. We're starting him. If he's healthy, you're starting him. It doesn't matter. I still have him as my running back. What is that? 3 in my rankings. I have him as my running back 3 in my rankings in PPR. Football says, should I start Trevion Henderson? It's going to depend on the other options that you have, I think, for your fantasy football team. I do like the matchup against Las Vegas. Do have him coming in as a running back 2 in his first game. He's my running back 20 on the week. I would start him over guys like Pollard, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, David Montgomery. However, if you have other options like James Cook, Breece Hall, Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Walker, I would play those guys over Trevion Henderson week 1. So like I said, it depends on who's on your team. It's kind of vague. Just saying, should you start him? Obviously, if you need to, yes. But it's hard to know without the other options that you have there. Andre says, my lineup after the trade is Jordan Love, Genty, Bucky, BTJ, T-Mac, Andrews, Flexes, Hendy, and Debo. I mean, it's pretty solid. It seems like you have the depth to give up too. And does make you a little bit better. But like I said, if you want to wait until the first week to see Breece's workload, I am not opposed to that at all, because I do think that Pickens is going to be a much better flex play than Debo most of the year. Unknown says, yo, got Garrett Wilson, Pacheco, and Sutton. Which 2 should I start? So I'm going to assume that this is a full PPR league. I have Isaiah Pacheco as my running back 21. It's a tougher matchup for him. He should get a good workload. it's tough to know what's going to happen in these, international games. Usually they're slower paced games. The field conditions aren't usually great either. For the wide receiver position, though, I have Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 18, and I have Cortland Sutton as my wide receiver 20. I probably, in a full PPR league, am going to lean towards Sutton and Wilson. But if it's a half PPR or a standard league, I would go Sutton and Pacheco. Probably in a standard league, Garrett Wilson and Pacheco in a half PPR. So that's kind of a whole bunch of different options, but hopefully I covered all of the different scoring settings for you there, unknown. Andre says, doing good though, bro. Off season flew by. Hope you've been good, brother. Yeah, man, it really has. It feels like the season kind of snuck up. In the off season, I kind of ramp up the content. So like we're doing a bunch of dynasty content as the NFL draft is around and things like that. But when you get to June, July, August, like it starts getting more and more redraft focused, and it just starts getting really, really hectic. And now we're here, 12 to 14-ish videos a week that are going to hit the channel. It's like 2 videos every day basically on the channel. So it snuck up. I'm glad it's here. I'm happy and going to enjoy the next couple of months while it's really, really busy. But yeah, I've been good, man. Appreciate you. Jack says, should I start Pollard or Worthy at my flex? I would be going with Worthy. I think this is a good matchup for him tonight. They're going to have to rely on him too early on with Rice suspended to start the year. So I'd be going with Worthy, and you said it's a half PPR. Still remains the same for me. Deathly says Myers or Shakir. Curious since Shakir is healthy now. Yeah, I mean, he's going to move up the rankings a tiny bit. I kind of had them back to back when it was Shakir and Myers early in the week, with the matchup being a good matchup versus Baltimore for Shakir, a high scoring matchup, I think, where they're going to be throwing the football a lot. I do lean Shakir here. I feel like he has a little bit of a higher ceiling, even though it feels like both of these guys are floor plays, safe floor plays, rather than they are ceiling plays. Brock, my guy, he says, Andrew, should I flex Travis Hunter or Breece Hall? Full PPR, thanks, King. I'm going to go with Breece Hall. I think right away, I just want to see what Travis Hunter's role looks like. I know they're talking about he's going to play offense and he's, a backup or a rotating cornerback and things like that. I want to see it first. I think Breece Hall's still going to be involved. It's going to be a game where it's probably low scoring, some running. Maybe he gets a goal line carry and things like that. So I'm not expecting a huge day from Breece, but he's definitely the higher floor play, and I think he has a pretty decent ceiling as well. So I would go with Breece Hall here in week 1. No problem. Andre says, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't high on JJ at first, but the more I thought about it, I think he can be a very solid for you guys. Minnesota's first time having a QB with rushing upside in forever. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the first time in this decade that we've even had a guy that has some rushing upside. But it's tough to tell. I mean, I guess like if you want to count like Joshua Dobbs when Dobbs was running the football around a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I like JJ, man. I think really when you look at JJ McCarthy, it's a couple of different things, right? Like you either believe in the talent, which I do believe in the talent. I think he's a pretty talented quarterback. And even if he wasn't on the Minnesota Vikings, I think he could be successful somewhere else. I think he has the skill set. But it's like the ecosystem that JJ McCarthy gets put into here. Kevin O'Connell has continuously produced top 10 fantasy football quarterbacks that score in total fantasy points and points per game, top 10 of the position. He's done it with Dobbs. He's done it with Mullins. He's done it with Darnold. He's done it with Cousins. Like, it just happens with Kevin O'Connell. That ecosystem is good. And then you have a top 5 offensive line probably projected to start the year with all of the guys that are there. Offseason additions of Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, along with the guys that we already had, the bookend tackles and Darisaw and O'Neal. And then you have all of the weapons, Hawkinson, Addison, who's going to be back in a couple of weeks, Thielen now, added to the roster, Justin Jefferson, the running game with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. It should be a very, very good offense. And even if JJ McCarthy takes time to grow into a NFL quarterback, the ecosystem there is going to be good enough that it can elevate him a little bit and kind of boost him up to start his career. So I definitely like what they got here. It feels like, I hate to say it, but it feels like one of the best situations possible for any quarterback ever, really, to enter the NFL. And I know people were saying that about Caleb Williams last year, but it feels like this is probably actually what people wanted Caleb Williams to get into. Let's go to 6 Rings. He says, at what point in time are you waving the white flag and trying to sell older assets if playoffs are out of the picture? I think it's going to depend on your league. I mean, if you're running divisions, you're going to have to watch where you're standing in the division. If you're running straight up just record, which I do in a lot of my dynasty leagues, that's probably where you're going to have to look at that as well. I think you're going to know probably in dynasty 6 to 8 weeks into the season. Obviously moving sooner rather than later is always better, because you don't want to be the guy trying to rebuild and sell after people have already started doing so, because some of those assets are going to get taken up by the rest of the league. So I think that's something that you're gonna have to pay attention to. But I'd say like 1.5 to 2 months into the season, you should probably have a pretty decent picture on where you're standing, and you should know how your team's going to perform for the most part for the rest of the year in a dynasty league. Caleb says, thoughts on Jordan Mason this year? I think he's very interesting. I just sold him in a dynasty league, but I do think that he's a player that's going to be involved for the Vikings. I think he's going to be in a rotation here with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is coming off of a season where he had the most carries he's ever had in a season ever, and he's 31. So I think Mason was brought in to kind of take some of those carries and take some of the goal line work and things like that. So he should be a pretty decent piece. This week, I have him as like a flex play. If you're desperate and you need a flex play, you can play him. But I think as the season goes on, he gets acclimated. Maybe Aaron Jones gets banged up and things like that. He should have a lot more upside in your fantasy leagues. Reborn says, Loveland, Ertz, or Pitts this week. Tell me why I'm itching like a fiend to pick up Pitts and start him. That's a good question. Let's go to my tight end rankings right here. Did you say PPR? I'm assuming it's PPR. So when I look at these guys right now, Loveland is currently my tight end 19 on the week. I got Ertz as my tight end 16 and Pitts as my tight end 17. However, I will say I do think the matchup against Tampa Bay is pretty solid for Pitts, and I think he's a player that you can definitely play if you want to. It would be between Ertz and Pitts for me, but if you want to go with Pitts, I don't hate it. I just don't think either of them are like top 12 plays. Guys that might be on your waiver wire that I think are better plays would be like Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry's a fine play this week. I have him as a top 12 tight end this week, and he could be on your waiver wire potentially, depending on your league. If Pitts is on your waiver wire, Henry's probably on your waiver wire as well. Matt says, flex Pacheco or Debo in a PPR league. Currently right now, Debo is my wide receiver 39. Pacheco is my running back 21. So I would be going with Pacheco to start the week. I think it's a tough matchup for him on the road here in Brazil, but he should get a pretty significant workload. So I'm going to be playing him there, my guy. Six Ring says, would you sell high on Xavier Worthy with Rice coming back if he strings together a few solid weeks? I think it's going to depend on what the compensation is for a guy like Worthy. I mean, if I'm looking at like being able to sell him for a guy like T. Higgins, or be able to sell him for a guy like, I don't know, Ted McMillan or something like that, like I'm probably looking to do so. Maybe even a Romo Dunze, like I'd be willing to do so. But I do think it depends. I think Worthy can really be involved even with Rice on the football field. So I guess it just depends on where his price gets. But I'm not opposed to selling if his price goes up significantly. But I still think he can be productive with Rice there. Would it be crazy to bench Hampton tonight for either Pollard or Monty in a PPR? I don't think it's crazy. I mean, I have Hampton as my running back 19. It's a little bit of a tougher matchup for him too. Pollard is my running back 22. I think that Denver matchup's a little bit tough, and I think they're going to have to abandon the run in this game in the second half. Monty's interesting too. I kind of have him as like a fringe RB2 play this week, but I think the highest ceiling is going to be Hampton. So if it were my call, my team, Andre, I would be playing Hampton this week and letting the other two guys sit on my bench. Let's see. Lucius says, would you start Knicks or Mahomes? Yeah, I mean, I think right now, if I'm looking at my rankings in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I would go with Knicks. The matchup is going to be fine for him. Mahomes is still a quarterback one play for me. He's a low-end quarterback one play, but I like the rushing upside of Knicks more, and I think he can be a little bit more effective in a game. I think this game, Kansas City versus Los Angeles tonight, I think it's going to be more of like a chess match between Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh, and I think it's going to be a little bit slower pace, and I think there's going to be more run game than there is passing game, and the defense is going to be good. So I'd probably be going with Knicks, personally. Mr. Magic, my guy, good to see you back. He says, Brody, need Pacheco to go off, damn straight. Do I play Pollard or Ridley in the flex? I would play Pollard over Ridley this week. If I'm looking at both of those Tennessee Titans options, Ridley getting the Pat Surtain shadow coverage all week is likely going to be something that scares me away a little bit. I think Ridley for me is like a low-end, low-upside wide receiver 3 play, unless he's really peppered with targets, which it's tough to tell if Cam Ward is going to be able to do that for him right away in his first game as a rookie. So give me Pollard right away. I think he has a safer floor. Jeff, my guy, he says, hey, Drew, are you worried about Dak's fantasy performance last night? I thought the few CD drops and red zone fumble really hammered his opportunity of scoring. I'm not worried. No, I thought he played really well. He had a lot of big-time throws, things, tight windows down the seam. Obviously, like you said, the CD drops. There was a lot of fantasy points left on the table for Dak Prescott. I thought he threw the football really well. I thought he looked good in the pocket. That's a good defense in Philly as well. Next couple of matchups for Dak Prescott are going to be a little bit easier as I'm looking at this schedule for him. He's going to get the New York Giants next week. He gets Chicago and Green Bay. Those are still some tough games, but then really after that is where it feels like the schedule is going to kind of open up a little bit more. What do we have there? It's the Carolina Panthers, the Jets, the Commanders, the Cardinals, like all of these teams. It's going to really open up. So I thought there was definitely good signs of life from Dak Prescott. I liked what I saw. I didn't end up starting him in the league that I had. I went with Goff over Dak, but I do think there's a lot to like from what he had last week. So I'm not worried about what went off last night, I guess, for him. Andre says, love or May this week. Looking at my rankings, I do have May 2 spots higher. Both actually have really solid matchups for fantasy production. I think the projected game total in that Detroit game is going to be a little bit higher as well. But I do think May, with the rushing upside, the good matchup against Las Vegas, he should have a pretty solid week. So I'd be going with May. John says, what's up? What up, man? Mr. Magic says CD got to bounce back so badly next week. He left a lot of points on the table. It was kind of unfortunate to see because a couple of those drops were like long, receiving yardage type of plays. I'm pulling up the game right now just so we can kind of talk about it. I feel like his box score stats looked fine. Obviously, like, we're not watching box scores, but 7 for 110, like, you're definitely fine with what CD gave you if you put him in your fantasy football team lineups. But I think when you look at what, you could have had if you were watching the game and you saw those drops and some of the things that happened, like, you're like, damn, there was a lot of points left on the table. So I agree with a lot of people. Everything that I've heard, I'm not too worried about drops in general for the most part, especially players like CeeDee Lamb. But he was on his off day at the facility, I heard, catching footballs from the jugs machine. So I'm not too worried about the man. John says Javonte Truthers rise up. Yeah, that was interesting, man. He's looking like a really good value so far. Obviously, it's one game, 15 for 54, 3.6 yards a carry. You'd like to see that number maybe get a little bit more efficient, but 2 touchdowns. Jaden Blue being a healthy scratch, insane. I didn't expect that to happen early on, but hey, it looks like Javonte might be the guy right now. And if you drafted him where you drafted him in your drafts, that's crazy. You're definitely happy with the value that you got there in week 1. The problem is I don't think a lot of people started him in week 1. So I think he scored a lot of those points on the bench for people. Niners, Rams, or Patriots defense. Let's see. The Rams defense is a pretty decent matchup this week against Houston. Their offensive line is horrible. And so I do think that they can get a few sacks. They can put Stroud under some pressure, things like that. The Niners matchup, it's tough to tell, I think, what's going to happen with Seattle. I think I'd rather have the Rams over San Francisco. And then the Patriots defense, they could be a decent play, but I just don't think that they're that talented of a football team right now. So give me the Rams defense this week. In a standard 1-quarterback league, I have Brock Purdy as my starter. Would you drop Jordan Love for Donta Thornton? Standard 1-quarterback league, Jordan Love for Donta Thornton. Probably not. I mean, I think you might have other drops that I'd be willing to drop for Donta Thornton. Like if you have a backup tight end, if you have, I don't know, other people I might be willing to drop for Donta Thornton. But I feel like Jordan Love could end up being your best fantasy football quarterback over Brock Purdy this year. So I think until you kind of see what these two guys do, you may be holding on to two of them, even though it's a 1 QB. Mr. Magic says if CD caught all those passes, he would have hit 200 yards probably. Yeah, he probably could have had 200 yards. He probably could have had a touchdown. Like things like that would have happened. And he says, I know you said to yourself, JJ could never. I saw a few tweets about like Justin Jefferson would never do that. He would never drop those passes, and maybe true. I don't know. All I can say is I'm happy to have JJ on my team. But I'd be happy to have Lamb on my team too. Six Ring says, would you ever do a live stream during one of the island games so we can react with you? I would consider potentially. The thing is, it's tough to kind of have like, I don't know. It's those types of streams are always tough. Like when we do the NFL draft, we do them to where we can kind of do it and react with you guys. Like, I don't know if Six Rings, I don't know if you've ever watched some of these draft streams that we've done. Like we did the first night of the NFL draft, the second day of the NFL draft. And I usually have like graphics and things to pop up to try to help with the production value, to kind of help you guys see what's happening. Like if a player, like let's say, this year when Cam Ward was drafted, I had a button on my stream deck where I could press and Cam Ward would pop up on the screen. You would be able to see the player card, things like that. When a team was on the clock, I could click a button and the overlay would show the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. And so like I did that, but in a game, I know you kind of just want to react and hang out. It's tough for me to feel like where the production value would be other than just like sitting and chatting with you guys, which I try to do a little bit in the Discord sometimes. I try to do that in especially like we have this Pick'ems league that we're doing this year with the Discord folks. We were in there chatting a lot last night during the game. That was probably that was a really fun time actually. But yeah, I'd consider it. I guess I'd have to figure out a way to make it a little bit more entertaining than just like me sitting on the screen for like 3 or 4 hours just talking to you guys and there being long periods of silence where we're just watching plays or commercials. But it's not a bad idea. Going back one more time, unfortunately, Six Rings, I can't show the game on TV or else YouTube is going to copyright strike me and they're going to take my stream down and they're going to get my channel strikes and stuff like that. So that's the only reason why I can't. If I could show the game, that would be even better. But obviously you can't with like the TV rights and stuff. Andre says drop Pitts for Thornton, right? If he's your backup tight end, yeah, I would drop Pitts for Thornton. Smitty says Henderson or Monty. I like Henderson more this week. Monty's like a safe floor play if you want to go that route, but I don't think he has that high of a ceiling. I think he has like a pretty, he's just like a low ceiling safe floor play you hope gets into the end zone. Also, by the way, I know it looked crazy when I did that. Dude, I am so sore. I was working out the other day and it's been a while since I worked out. I won't lie to you. I am so sore. I feel like I can't even bend my arms right now the way my muscles are so tight. So I look funky sometimes. Like I can't bend my arms. I look like a stick man. It's crazy. But that said, tangent. I'm going on Trevion Henderson here over Monty. I think he has a higher ceiling. Andre says, I did a dynasty trade a couple of weeks ago, late 27 first for Rice. Do you like it? Yeah, I like it. A late 27 first. Obviously, I like that 2027 draft class. It's a really good draft class. I think there's going to be a lot of really good players in it. Obviously, we need it to play out the way we want it to, where everybody comes out their junior year. Nobody goes back for NIL money, things like that. But I do like Rice, and I think a late first is fine in a dynasty league, especially if you're a contending team. So, yeah, I have no issues with that one. Dan says, are we betting KC to cover tonight? Let me pull up. What is the spread here? 3.5. I like them to win the game. I think it's going to be a close one. 3.5 is a pretty solid line. I'd buy it down to 2.5. I'd buy it down, and then I'd bet that. But, yeah, they probably can. They probably can. All right, what else we got here, folks? All right, just a warning for everybody. home right now. We're about 30 minutes in, so we got about 30 minutes left until game time. So we got 30 minutes left to ask questions. I see them coming in right now. Andre says, I'm trying to sell JT. What's his price tag looking like? I think it depends, really. If you're a contending team, I don't mind keeping JT right now. When you go over to like places like Keep Trade Cut, like I like to use it for reference. Let's see here though. Just so like general market value. But like I'll tell you kind of where I have him compared to where the market has him right now. So Jonathan Taylor right now, he's kind of like around Chase Brown, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Travis Hunter, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs. Like, I prefer Jonathan Taylor over a lot of those guys. I think if you're a rebuilding team, you're a younger team, and you want to move JT for T, or you want to move JT for Garrett Wilson, I'm okay with that. If you want to move JT for Igbuka, I'm okay with that, or a Tet McMillan. But if you're looking for, like, running back production, the only other guy that I would have maybe as high as JT would be, like, Chase Brown. And I still like JT, so I wouldn't be moving him for a running back. If you have draft capital, I think you have to start the conversation as like an early first for Jonathan Taylor for a contender. But most contenders aren't going to have that, so it's probably going to be too late first for Jonathan Taylor is where I'm starting the conversation. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with him. Any props you like tonight, lad, over on the yards? I haven't even looked at props tonight, so I couldn't tell you. I've gone a little bit away from prop bets, and I've been doing more DFS. A lot of like my quote-unquote gambling budget that I have had over the last year or so, I've moved into DFS. So I've been playing a lot of best ball. I've been playing some of these DraftKings salary cap lineups and things like that. So I haven't really been looking at props. Let me see what we got here though. I'm gonna find one for you just so I don't want to leave you empty handed here, John. Let's see. They don't have a lot of lines on underdog. First downs is really what we're tracking. I guess it's Justin Herbert, 17.05 fantasy points. I'd probably go the higher on that one. But other than that, I don't know. Feels like we're slacking right now over on underdog. What are we doing, man? Got offered Caleb Johnson and Golden for him. For JT, yeah, I would rather just keep JT than take that package. Tent says Sutton, McMillan, Hampton, full PPR. You got to bench one of these guys. Okay, so I got Hampton as my running back 19. I got Sutton as my wide receiver 20 and McMillan as my wide receiver 22. They're all really solid plays. I think a full PPR, I'm going to lean with Sutton and McMillan, and I'm going to bench Hampton tonight. Would you stash Thornton or Tesla? I'd rather go Thornton over Tesla. I just think he has a clear pathway to production right away than Tesla does. Do you see the Packers D doing much on the Lions? Probably not too much. We don't even know if Micah Parsons is going to play. He's questionable for the week. I have them as like a low-end defensive play. They're like my 17th ranked defense on the week. I think the Lions are just too good of an offense. There's going to be too many points scored. Should I trade CMC and Wilson for Hampton and London? I mean, I don't mind it. London and CMC should probably be similarly valued players. Hampton and Garrett Wilson, I think you lean Garrett Wilson, but I don't hate it because Hampton's going to increase in value over the course of the year. Here's my thing, Matt. If you've drafted CMC, you should have drafted him with knowing the inherent risk that you were going to have with Chris McCaffrey on your lineup. So this should be something that shouldn't scare you, because this should have been something that was in your ranges of outcomes anyways when you click draft on Chris McCaffrey. So, however, if you were like, I got caught up in it and this is like something that's scaring me and I don't want to be a part of this, like I don't want to ride the roller coaster, because it's going to be a roller coaster all year round. This is a very solid trade comp where you can go get a guy like London and Hampton, and I don't mind that side of the deal at all. That's going to be a much safer, less hectic roller coaster ride than the CMC Garrett Wilson side. So it's up to you. Risk averse, go Hampton and London. If you want to be risky all year long and you want the upside of CMC if he's healthy, go CMC and Wilson. Henderson over DK in my flex. I would go Henderson over DK in your flex. I don't like the matchup for DK this week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and he gets Sauce Gardner coverage. Are you still doing team reviews? Yes, I still offer that as like a service. I will say currently at this point in time, I don't have time to do them at the moment. That's why I haven't been offering them. I will listen to them by request, I think, right now. But that's more something that I do in the off season because I have way more free time to spend time researching your teams and making videos for you guys. But right now, when I'm at like 12 to 14 videos a week, it's tough to squeeze in a team review as well. So by request, yes. I would probably charge a little bit more in season just for lack of time, unfortunately. But I would still do it by request if you had a team 6 rings. But if you want to wait for a little bit of a cheaper service, or it's not going to be cheaper, I hate to use that. It'll be more affordable in the off season when I have more time, but it'll be the same product either way, if that makes sense. Insidious says, how great was it knowing we had football yesterday? Got me pumped AF coming home from work. It was great, man. I will say the immediate, because I'm an East Coast unk, like I heard that phrase the other day. I love it. The East Coast unks. Like, I'm an East Coast guy, so getting the weather delay in the first game back was just like a punch in the nuts. It was so painful to have to wait for the weather delay when I'm already knowing that like a normally scheduled game is going to end up being done about midnight anyways. It just was a punch in the nuts. So that did suck. It was a gut check, a reality check, but it was good having football back. I'm excited for it here again tonight. KJ says, start one, Harvey, Bigsby, or Mason, full PPR. It's tough. All these guys are like fringe plays for me, man. I don't really like any of them other than like a flex play. Harvey would be the highest in my rankings. Mason would be the next one down, and then it would be Bigsby after that. Actually, I have Bigsby over Mason. Sorry about that. But I would be playing Harvey in that group of guys. But they're all just like flex plays to me. I don't really love any of them. Smitty says, can I leverage Brian Robinson Jr. to a CMC owner for another player? You absolutely could. I hate to be the guy, but I was the guy today that threw Brian Robinson on the trade block in my Dynasty League. Like, yo, I know, they're saying CMC's healthy, and I have CMC in some leagues. But, like, if anybody wants to come get B-Rob, I will more than happily take, offers for Brian Robinson. So you can leverage. This is the time to leverage it. Don't... people make fun of the people that do that, where like opportunity strikes and they start like putting a guy on a trade block and start, talking negotiations. That's what the fuck this is for. That is what this is for. When shit happens, we have to maneuver. So take advantage. I don't think it's a bad idea to do that at all. And you absolutely can leverage Brian Robinson to a CMC owner. Anthony says, RJ Harvey or Tyrone Tracy this week. I have them in the same tier. I would go with Tyrone Tracy over Harvey. I do think Dobbins is a little bit more involved than people want. Niner says, full PPR for a spot, Tyrone Tracy, Travis Hunter, or Ricky Pearsall. It's Ricky Pearsall for me. I would play him. I think he has the best chance at a big week in a full PPR league. And Niner, I know you probably like to hear that, so I can just get a hunch by your name, your YouTube name. You probably want to play Ricky Pearsall. Anthony says, I think this is a big Kelsey game. I agree with Cam. It could be. I think Worthy's due for a good day. I really do think Pacheco's going to have a very solid year. I've been very high on Pacheco in the offseason. So I'm excited to see what happens. Kelsey needs to I think this is the sunset year, man. I think this is the sunset year for Kelsey, so he needs to get it together, man. Full PPR for a flex. I think we just answered this one. It was Tracy, Hunter, and Pearsall. I'm going Pearsall. Captain, my guy, he says, huge fan of the show. Already a sub. Am I insane to play Swift instead over Hampton? First of all, thank you for being a fan of the show, and thank you for being a subscriber already. Appreciate you. Are you insane? I don't think you're insane. I have Swift lower. I think that Minnesota run defense is pretty tough. Brian Flores in that pass rush. I do think that they're a little bit harder to run against. It says, I'm scared of the Najee participation, and I like Swift because Roschon, the other guy, are hurt. Yeah, I mean, he should see a pretty significant workload. However, it's tough to tell what is going to happen right away with that Bears. There's so many moving parts, so many new things going on that it's tough for me to tell. I do like Hampton. I don't think Najee's going to be super involved, and even if he is, last year we had saw on multiple occasions where J.K. Dobbins was still very, very fantasy football relevant, and Gus Edwards was getting some touches. Like, I think Najee Harris could get the Gus Edwards touches and still have Hampton looking fine. So it's up to you. I think I would go with Hampton, but I don't think it's insane to go the other way. I would love nothing more than for Travis Hunter to play 90% on offense and 10 on defense, ball out. He's got Jetta's potential. I disagree with this, and I have disagreed with this a lot in the offseason, and I've hated to be the guy that's like pumping the brakes on Travis Hunter. The insane comps of like Justin Jefferson, which he's gotten from multiple people. You're not the first person I've heard say this, Six Rings. Like, multiple people have said, like, he has Justin Jefferson potential. I don't think he has that. That doesn't come around like that. It doesn't come around that often. Can Travis Hunter be a very, very good NFL wide receiver? I think so. I am more on the side of things that I think Travis Hunter can be a Garrett Wilson, Ladd McConkey producer. And that is not bad at all. That is a very solid NFL wide receiver. I just don't believe that he can be a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type guy. That's so rare. And there has to be so many things that go right for him to hit that stratosphere. One, you have to believe, I said this the other day on one of the videos, and it's just, you got to believe one of a few things. One, Trevor Lawrence is going to elevate his play so highly under Liam Cohen that he can support Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, and one of those guys is going to be Jamar Chase, and the other one's going to be T. Higgins. You have to believe that that will happen. I don't believe that that is going to happen. Now, the other thing is you have to believe that he's so good that if Trevor Lawrence doesn't elevate, he can supplant Brian Thomas Jr. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a better wide receiver than Travis Hunter. So there's a few things that have to happen. We'll see. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong on Travis Hunter, but I like Tet McMillan in this rookie class more than Travis Hunter. He says reception perception. He had godly numbers. Yeah, he did. We've seen reception perception have godly numbers for other guys before too. I love Matt Harmon. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I love Matt Harmon. I think his work is incredible. Jahan Dotson had really, really good numbers. Ended up being nothing after his rookie season. Rome Odunze had godly numbers as a rookie coming in from college to the NFL. It didn't really pan out. I still believe in Rome Odunze, but can he be Justin Jefferson? I don't know. It's also tough to know, some of the talent that he was playing against at Colorado compared to these other guys that are in the SEC or the Big Ten, and they're playing all the time, these elite schools. It's just tough. It's tough to tell. I think he's an interesting prospect. All eyes are going to be on him. I love the idea of him playing both sides of the football, but for fantasy, I want us to pump the brakes a little bit on the Jettas comparisons and the other things. Like full-time wide receivers that we viewed as godly prospects in Marvin Harrison Jr. struggled to come into the NFL and be elite right away. It's tough, and that's all I'm saying with Travis Hunter. So, yeah, I mean, that's really where I'm at there. Crimson Mass says, no, he can't be Justin Jefferson, Andrew. This is war. MFGDs from Let's Talk Dynasty. Yes, I don't believe he's going to be Justin Jefferson either. War. Hey, Ward, now that you're in the chat, actually, somebody asked me earlier. They said we should make a side bet or something for a video for this Bears and this Vikings game. So, I don't know. Maybe we do that. We'll figure it out. Dan says Jahan Dotson was the #1 Philly receiver, Andrew. Hell yeah. Yeah, he was the #1 receiver. But you get my point here, right? Like, let's be cautious of comparing everybody who has a green chart on reception perception to Jefferson and OBJ, prime OBJ and Devonta Adams and all these other guys. I get the numbers are the numbers, but it is a piece of the pie in trying to figure out the puzzle here of NFL success. Brandon Peterson says, start Travis Hunter or Leanna Lene. Let's start Travis Hunter, but goddamn. Crimson Mass says, stay tuned. Okay, stay tuned. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll figure it out off stream, maybe on our Dynasty Trade Show tomorrow. And maybe it'll be something for the next trade show. Maybe you got to give me a skull chant on camera, or maybe I got to give you a De Bears or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Maybe, I don't know. Something fun. All right, folks, this is the 10-minute countdown, the 10-minute, I guess, final call for your questions. Get those questions in tonight before this game. We got this game starting in about 15 minutes. So throw me those start-sit questions in the chat. Other questions you may have. I know we've talked a little bit of prospects. We've talked a little bit of NFL, just fandom, things like that. But throw in those final questions, those final topics you want to discuss before we get on out of here. We got about 10 minutes here. And if you haven't already, hit the like button for me, folks. That is the best free way to show this channel support. So make sure you hit that like button if you haven't. Crimson Masks. Start Aaron Jones, Matthew Golden, or Monty. Week 1 in my rankings, full PPR. I got Matthew Golden right now as my wide receiver 38. Kind of have him as a flex play week 1. I want to see what happens with this Green Bay offense. We did get news that Jaden Reed might be involved. We did get news that Romeo Dobbs was working with starters and things like that. I think Golden's going to be fine. But week 1, kind of a flex play. For Aaron Jones and Monty, I have Aaron Jones as my running back 23 on the week. It's a solid matchup against the Bears. Last year they were ranked 29th in defensive fantasy points allowed against the running back position, and I have Monty as my running back 26. So give me Aaron Jones this week. I think he can be fine. Six Ring says, I think the loser gets one off the top rope. Yeah, I mean, we could make that happen if we weren't 48 states apart from each other right now. Dan says, what are we sipping on tonight? I got water. I got water in this cup, so it's just H2O. Elbow drop? That's crazy. That's just, I'll probably just ban you from the show. You won't ever be able to co-host with me ever again. Jeffrey says, since Brandon's in the chat, what's your outlook on Tyler Warren this year? I like Tyler Warren. I liked him a lot. I thought he was the tight end 1 in this rookie class. Like him for Dynasty. I think he's going to be a big part of the receiving game in Indianapolis. I think long-term he's going to be maybe even the focal point. I think he has George Kittle potential in this offense. There's a lot of things that they need to figure out, though. You know, quarterback, I don't love A-Rich. I don't love Daniel Jones. I think they got to get that figured out. There's still going to be some guys like Josh Downs, who I like, who's going to be involved. It's probably a year where he's going to be able to flirt with like these low-end tight end 1s, but if anybody's flirting with low-end tight end 1s, they're basically not startable most of the year. Like, unless you have a top 5, top 7 guy, everybody else is basically a stream the matchups guy, and that might be what Tyler Warren is, but I think in Dynasty he has a lot of long-term potential, and I really like him. This week, though, I do have him as my tight end. Tight end 11 on the week against Miami. That's where he's sitting. So low end tight end 1 this week. Six Ring says, if Jake's still in here, you trying that Leggett raccoon burger? That's crazy, dude. I've never even heard of that. Did Leggett actually make a raccoon burger? Brandon says, love Warren, hate all of the pass catches for fantasy on the Colts. Yeah, I think Downs is interesting. It seems like Downs has been kind of quarterback proof over the last couple of years. It doesn't matter who comes in. He still kind of produces as like this flex play with potential for more because he's pretty good after the catch as well. I do think that Downs has kind of supplanted Pittman as the number one fantasy wide receiver on that team. I think Pittman still operates as the number one quote unquote wide receiver for the Colts, but it seems like Downs is the best guy for them in fantasy. All Colts pass catchers will suffer. Fair enough. Brandon, you're the Colts fan. How do you feel about JT, though? You think JT's going to ball out? Because I think JT can ball out this year. I think we might be coming to the end here, folks. I think the questions are starting to tear off. We're getting close to game time, so I wouldn't be, shocked if people are shutting down the YouTube and flipping over. Actually, because the game's on YouTube, right? So you have to close my stream if you want to go watch the game. So I don't blame you motherfuckers for turning this off. But yeah, I think we might be out. My finisher was a moonsault back in the day, but doubt I can do it with back fusion surgery coming up. That's unfortunate, man. Sorry to hear that you have to have that surgery, but I don't even know what a moonsault is. It sounds like assault. That's what it sounds like. Vanilla Vic, I ain't gonna be talking about him. I gotta start 2 PPR: Henderson, Egbuka, Pearsall, and Jacoby Myers. In my rankings this week, Henderson is my running back 20, and then wide receivers with Egbuka, I got him currently as my wide receiver 32. Pearsall is my wide receiver 34, and Jacoby Myers is my wide receiver 30 or 41. So if you're starting 2, give me Henderson and Egbuka this week. And then this will be the last comment, unless we can get somebody to sneak one in as I'm hitting the outro. But Brandon says, I think JT will be a top 8 running back. I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that at all. I think he's going to be fine. Dan says backflip off of the top rope. That's probably why you have to have back fusion surgery. Honestly, it's because you're doing shit like that, Dan. Mobbin says Hampton tonight or Aaron Jones against the Bears. Give me Hampton. And then Lex says Tet or Pollard in PPR this week. I like Tet this week. And Insidious says that's what I thought. Thanks, Goat. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. All right, folks, that's it. It is about game time. You guys get settled, get ready for the game. It's on YouTube, so you should be able to, just switch over and watch it from here on out. I'm going to go make sure I get some food ready, sit down, watch it. Tonight we're rooting for, I think I got fantasy relevant players that I got in tonight's game is, I think just Mahomes and Pacheco. Mahomes and Pacheco are the only ones that I have this week. So we should be rooting for the Chiefs tonight, which sounds weird, but it is what we're doing. Other than that, though, that's it. If you haven't already, hit the like button for me. It is the best free way to show the channel some support. Make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're interacting in the chat, you already are subscribed, so thank you guys so much for that already. And go join our free Discord in there chatting with you guys, hanging out. We're doing this every week. Friday nights and Tuesday nights, we're doing those Q&A streams, and then Sundays we're doing our start sits before the game. So if you have anything that comes up between now and Sunday morning, tap in with me Sunday morning before the games. I'm going to be here. I'll always be here for you guys. Like the girlfriend that won't leave you alone. I'm gonna always be here for you. That's the way it's gonna be, and hopefully it's not a toxic relationship. Heavy Metal hits him with this. Appreciate you. Heavy Metal to you. Jacoby at 41 is nuts. He just has no ceiling. That's just kind of the vibes. Go Vikes. Hell yeah. Peace out, Lex. And Dan says have a good one. Appreciate all of you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, though, peace out.